Hello guys, this video is going out to both my sophomore class and all my junior classes. I had talked to you about this a little bit in class. I wanted to make a more permanent document that you could go back to and rewind and look at it again. And it's what I'm calling the intellectual miracle of reading and writing. I told you in class we're going to be stressing reading and writing a lot this year. I think it's one of the most important things I can do with you as an English teacher. I'm going to assign you reading outside of class. We're going to read in class as well in some cases. If we're still on this 2-day a week, we won't be doing a lot of reading in class, but when we're analyzing text, we're going to be reading passages from text. And why are we going to be doing that? Because reading is one of the greatest intellectual tasks that you can do on planet Earth. And people take this for granted. A lot of people learn how to read when they're young. Okay, I know how to read, and then they let it go. Every time you read, it is an intellectual miracle. And the same thing for every time that you write, it's an intellectual miracle that I say people take for granted all the time. Let me explain, and I did this for you guys in class. I just want to do it again. Imagine if you're an alien from another planet where they don't read or they don't write. And you come down to planet Earth and you see some guy who's got a book or this thing, he would know it's a book, and he's looking at it, staring at it, turning a page, staring at it some more, turning a page again. What would this alien think? Oh, they're crazy. What are they doing? And then when they look inside and see, what is that? In fact, before you know how to read, you are aliens. This is scribble. Because all you see on this page is symbols. That's all it is, symbols. And if you were to read this in Russian, the symbols would be different, and I can't read Russian. And most of you probably can't either. So you have to learn the symbols before you can actually stare in the book and get some meaning. And you understand that's what humans do. And some people, imagine if I was fluent in Russian and fluent in English, and I could take a Russian book and look at these symbols, and then I could look at an English book and look at all these symbols, and I could make meaning of all of that. Imagine the difficulty. And that's why a lot of people don't do it, because it is difficult. The difficulty of this intellectual task that's going on in your head. You gotta read, kids. If you want to get an edge in the world, you gotta read. And you gotta read a lot. You should always be reading a book. And not just books, read short articles, read all kinds of things. Reading, it exercises your brain. And how do you do that? Well, what's the first thing that we do? When we're little kids, before we can read a book, we got to learn what? We have to learn the letters. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We learn the letters. And then when we figure that out, we can now put together words. And then once we figure out words, we can figure out phrases. And that's how kids usually talk at first. They don't talk in complete thoughts. It's little phrases, clauses. And a phrase is a group of words, doesn't have a noun and a verb necessarily. Clause can have a noun or verb, can be a separate sentence on its own, or it can be a part of a sentence. And then what comes after phrases and clauses? Sentences. And so, when you start reading, the phrases, clauses, and sentences are super simple. And as you get more advanced, they get more complex. And then what comes after the phrases, clauses, and sentences? Paragraphs are the next thing. And then after that, you're looking at groups of paragraphs, and you're decoding all of that stuff in your head. It's a puzzle. And every time you read, you're decoding. And some people the more experience they get, they read really, really fast. And then you wonder why they're smart. Because they're constantly exercising their brain. It's really interesting how you'll find mathematicians and scientists, they also have big libraries. And you wonder why they're so smart. It's because they read on top of that. Reading is decoding. It's its own language. So as you guys are thinking about this year, understand if you want to get smarter, your brain's still growing. Frontal lobe of your brain, 26, late 20s, it's still growing. Decision making, all that stuff is still growing. So if you want to strengthen your brain in these formative years in high school and your 20s, well, one of the most important things you can do is read. Corporate culture, CEOs, it's expected that you read, and they talk about the lists of books that they read. So I want to challenge you guys, don't just read the stuff for school, and actually read the assignments I gave you for school. Read outside of school as well. Next thing I want to do is I want to talk to you about writing, because it's really interesting. Writing is the same kind of thing. People think, oh, writing, it's not that big of a deal, but it is an incredible intellectual task to write as well, because you have ideas in your head and you formulate it into letters, words, phrases, clauses, sentences, paragraphs, and you put it down, and you can do it many paragraphs in a row. And here's an interesting thing. What comes after a paragraph? What's the next real classification? It then just kind of becomes arbitrary. It's an essay. It's a novel. But basically a novel and an essay or a long book, a history book, it's a bunch of paragraphs. Well, what's a paragraph? Well, we just talked about it. So here's a little tip on writing. Side note, if you want to get better at writing, you want to know what you do? Focus on your words, learning new words, using the right word, get better at your phrases, your clauses, your sentences, and then also your paragraphs. Get better at those. Ernest Hemingway, it was said he would spend a whole morning of working on one paragraph. I used to kind of doubt that. Now, as I'm a little bit older, I think, yeah, that's very possible. He didn't write super long novels. Maybe he did revise and edit them so much so he could try to get the perfect word. If you look at The Old Man and the Sea, that's, a super short book. Some people say he was trying to write a poem novel. And he won the Nobel Prize for that. But anyway, something to think about. You want to get better at writing? Work on those things. But the last thing I want to leave with you about reading and writing is just remember, these are incredible intellectual tasks that you will carry over into any job that you do. Any job you do. Your brain power is never a problem. You want to improve your brain power? Read and write. And that's what we're going to do a lot of this year. All right. Thanks for listening.